Hope you're having a good day today. It's Saturday. I'm getting ready for Sunday tomorrow. Everywhere, we're all going to be worshiping the Lord in our own little location. Drinking my mango peach tea. So, I want to talk today about something that we all fall into. Okay, and that's jumping to conclusions, basically. Okay, because a lot of times we may be seeing something play out in front of our eyes. Actions or events or somebody doing something, but we may not understand what's happening, but we tend to jump to a conclusion that we know what's happening. And I'm going to use the story of the boy Samuel to kind of illustrate what I feel God's trying to tell us, okay? Now, I'm going to jump around a little bit in chapter 3 of Samuel, and we're going to go from there now. Actually, let me back up. We're going to go to 1 Samuel 1, and we're going to start reading in verse 12 in chapter 1. Now it came about, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli was watching her mouth. As for Hannah, she was speaking in her heart, only her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. So Eli thought she was drunk. Then Eli said to her, "How long will you make yourself drunk? Put away your wine from you." But Hannah replied, "No, my lord, I am a woman oppressed in spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have poured out my soul before the Lord." Now, she was praying for a son because her womb was closed up. And she had said right before this that she would, if the Lord would give him to her, then she will make him serve the Lord all the days of his life, and a razor shall never come to his head. Now we move on, and she receives a son, and this is the boy Samuel. Now, we're going to kind of go through a story here, a setup for what's going to be going on. Because remember, this is a young boy that, first of all, Eli didn't know what the lady was doing, what Hannah was doing, thought she was drunk, jumped to a conclusion, right? But God was working in something, so she was pouring out her spirit, pouring out to the Lord, asking him for a baby, a son, and the Lord answered that prayer, gave her a son, and now we have this side story happening because it's building up into what Samuel's going to do as his first work as a prophet of the Lord. All right? Now, we don't know he's going to be a prophet at this point, so we're still just seeing this unfold. In verse 11, we hear about the sons of Eli were worthless men that did not know the Lord and the custom of the priests with the people. And they go on a little bit, and they're totally just defiling the temple, defiling the things of the Lord. And in verse 23, Eli said to his sons, "Why do you do such things, the evil things that I hear from all these people? No, my sons, for the report is not good, which I hear the Lord's people circulating. If one man sins against another, God will mediate for him. But if a man sins against the Lord, who can intercede for him?" So he was telling his sons that they are sinning against the Lord. But they would not listen to the voice of their father, for the Lord desired to put them to death. Okay? Now, while his sons are sinning against the Lord, okay, the Lord has something else in the making that we can't see. Now, Eli was upset with his sons, but he was letting them do it. Okay? So in a sense, he was approving their actions. Now, verse 26, now the boy Samuel was growing in stature and in favor both with the Lord and with men. Okay? Now check this out. We're moving on. Verse 1 in chapter 3. And this is important to us individually as we're learning to hear from God. And what we need to know, what we need to realize is it doesn't take it's not a requirement to be an overly spiritual sounding person to be spoken to and used of the Lord. Okay? Which we're about to learn with Samuel right now. Because a lot of times we'll see God moving, or we'll see people moving in the Spirit of God, but we'll judge them really quickly and say, "No, you're too young to be doing that. You're not versed in the things of God. You can't do this kind of stuff. You don't know what you're doing. You're doing it in your flesh, in your carnal mind. However, we're about to learn something, okay? Chapter 3, verse 1. Now the boy Samuel was ministering to the Lord before Eli. Okay, Eli the priest. And word from the Lord was rare in those days. Visions were infrequent. So we're getting a story set up. Samuel ministering to the Lord, okay, before Eli. Ministering to God before Eli. And then we're told that the visions were infrequent, words from the Lord were rare. So now we're getting the story here that's about to be happening set up for us. And this is the story when the Lord calls to Samuel, here I am. Samuel runs to Eli. Eli's like, no, I didn't call you, go lay down. And then he calls to him again, Samuel. Samuel rose, went to Eli. Eli said, I did not call, go lie down again. And 7, Samuel did not yet know the Lord, nor had the word of the Lord yet been revealed to him. Okay, so here we have a young boy that's ministering to the Lord before Eli. Okay, so Eli the priest had shown him how to minister to the Lord. But then we see twice he was being called by the Lord. Samuel couldn't recognize his voice because he hadn't been taught how to yet. He hadn't been taught the things of the Lord. He did not know the Lord, but he was ministering to him. Ministering to the Lord, but didn't know him yet. Okay, so this is obviously a process where we have to learn to know the Lord. Okay, and nor had the word of the Lord yet been revealed to him. So the Lord called Samuel again for the 3rd time, and he arose and went to Eli and said, here I am, for you called me. Then Eli, which took him 3 times, discerned that the Lord was calling the boy. Now remember, we had just read in verse 1 that the word of the Lord was rare in those days and visions were infrequent. So Eli was used to not having a word of the Lord come forth and not having visions right now. They were just not something that was going on. So it took him 3 times of this event happening before he realized, oh, wait a minute, the Lord's calling you, Samuel. Okay, go back and lie down. And when he says it again, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. That's what you're supposed to say to him. So the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel said, speak, for your servant is listening. Now, the whole next few verses is the Lord telling Samuel, behold, I'm about to do a thing in Israel. And he goes on and tells him. Then he tells him what he's going to do to the sons of Eli, all right, to the house of Eli. Now, first word of the Lord that Samuel's heard, okay, as a young boy who was not taught or versed in the things of God, or the word of the Lord hadn't been revealed to him yet. Just ministering to God. It's all he did as a young boy was just minister to the Lord from what he had learned from the priest Eli. Okay? It took Eli three of these events before he discerned the Lord was calling to Samuel. Now Samuel says, here I am, I'm listening. Verse 11, the Lord said to Samuel, behold, I'm about to do a thing in Israel at which both ears of everyone who hears it will tingle. In that day I will carry out against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house from beginning to end. For I have told him that I am about to judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knew, because his sons brought a curse on themselves, and he did not rebuke them. Now this is the first word that Samuel, the boy Samuel, is hearing from God. And it's about his mentor, right? Think about it. It's about the man that has been discipling him as a priest, with him being a young boy, as unto the things of the Lord, okay, ministering unto the Lord. Therefore have I sworn to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be atoned for by sacrifice or offering forever. Okay, so the Lord's bringing a curse on the house of Eli because of his sons and because Eli did not rebuke his sons. Okay, now, verse 15, so Samuel lay down until morning, then he opened the doors of the house of the Lord, but Samuel was afraid to tell the vision to Eli. Well, of course, wouldn't you be afraid? Oh my goodness, man. First word of the Lord you hear, and it's about your mentor. You know, it's about the priest that's been guiding you on ministering to the Lord, and then tells you, hey man, 3rd time, that's God talking to you. When he calls you again, say, this is your servant, speak. Right? And what he hears is drastic. It's against the house of Eli, which is where he's been under the priest Eli. First word of the Lord he's heard. Then Eli called to Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. He said, here I am. He said, what is the word that he spoke to you? Please do not hide it from me. May God do so to you, and more also if you hide anything from me of all the words that he spoke to you. So Samuel told him everything and hid nothing from him. And he said, it is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him. Now, he obeyed what his mentor, his priest was telling him, what Eli was telling him. Okay, and he told him everything and hid nothing that the Lord had told him about the house of Eli, which the Lord had already told Eli was going to happen. So Samuel's word was a confirmation, right, to what God had already told Eli that was going to happen. Okay? Verse 19. And this is the starting of Samuel's growth in God right here. Then thus Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fail. From all Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, knew that Samuel was confirmed as a prophet of the Lord. Okay? Confirmed as a prophet of the Lord. Young boy, Samuel, only thing he had been doing was ministering unto the Lord, according to what he had learned from Eli the priest, his mentor. And then all of a sudden, with no spiritual understanding, no revelation yet of what the word of the Lord was, the Lord spoke to him, called him. And the third time, his mentor told him, hey man, that's God calling you. Next time when he calls you, yes, sir, yes, Lord, here I am, your servant, speak to me. So he heard, he did what he was told to do, okay? Got the word, serious, drastic word from God that was confirmation of what God had already told Eli concerning the house of Eli and the judgment that was coming, because Eli didn't rebuke his sons for sinning against the Lord in the beginning, to begin with. And now after that first action, even though Samuel had no spiritual understanding yet, had no revelation from the Lord yet, then he was confirmed as a prophet of the Lord for that event right there. I'm telling you, we tend to jump to conclusions, I think, too much. And we don't realize that the little things that happen that we may consider in our own mind, just like Eli thought Hannah was drunk because she wasn't speaking out loud, but her lips were moving. But no, what she was doing was setting in motion something that was going to come back to confirm a word from God about his house because of his sons sinning against the Lord. So the little things are what God uses. And then he takes those little things, and when we are willing to be used of him in any manner he sees fit, that is when God uses us. And we don't have to be some big scholar. We don't have to have big seminary, documents on the wall that say we are a PhD in divinity or anything like that, a Bachelor of Divinity, or we've been going to the seminary for 8 years and this and that with a PhD in divinity and all these things. We don't have to have a theological background even to hear from God. Okay? Now, you need to be ministering unto the Lord so the Lord knows your heart, and so he knows that you are ready to receive from him. All right? So he knows that you're not going to go run amok. He knows that we're not going to go and get too overzealous in one area over the next, but that we'll be able to hear the word of the Lord, and that we'll be able to deliver the word of the Lord to whomever the word is for, whether it's individual people, or whether it's corporate congregations, or whether it's for ourselves. But when you see somebody moving in the things of God and moving in the direction God's taking them, we may jump to conclusions and assume that that's not the right place for them. Well, who are we to say what God's doing? We can discern what God is doing, and we know that he's in control of everything, right? So allow people to be used of God in any way that God sees fit. There's no reason for us to put a box on it or a limitation, okay? So remember, when you see God moving, when you see events and actions and you don't quite understand them, don't jump to conclusions, because God is probably moving in that situation, and then the outcome is going to come out, and then we'll be able to see what the Lord is going to do, okay? Whether it's going to be a blessing from God in someone's life, or it's going to be a destruction to their house, depending on what they've done to the Lord. Just like here with the house of Eli. His sons sinned against the Lord, and so God judged them. and told Eli what was going to happen, and then confirmed it through the boy Samuel, which that event confirmed him as a prophet of the Lord. And then we hear so much more of him as the book goes on. There you go. That's good stuff. That's the first 3 chapters of 1 Samuel. So, Lord willing, I will see you on the next video. I'm going to continue reading here some in Samuel and check it out because this is good stories. And I will see y'all next time. Remember, Sunday morning tomorrow at True Gospel Ministries, Brother Roy is going to be bringing the word. And I would love to invite you guys to come over and check it out and just listen to the word of the Lord and be among the people of God. And let's fellowship together. Let's share life together. And let's pray together for the things of God in this city. All right? Amen. Until next time, I will see you on the next live video, Lord willing. Bye-bye.